How you speak on YouTube has far more of an effect than what you say on the split decision that your viewers make to either click off or keep watching. And this is because of a famous formula that communication experts have identified, which is the 55-38-7 rule. 55 of communication comes from body language, 30% of communication comes from tone of voice, and only 7% of communication comes from what you actually say. So if you're focused on just writing scripts and mapping out every single word to try and hook your audience, you're only doing 7% of the work. The rest of the work, that 93%, is actually in how you communicate. And in this video, I want to show you a method that makes you sound way more natural and build way more trust on YouTube and connection with your audience, rather than having people think, well, this person's saying good stuff, but I don't really like the vibe. So let's get into it. There's a rule that I've identified in a previous video that I talked about called the coffee shop rule. And let's just recap here really quickly. If you speak on camera in a way that would sound unnatural to speak in a coffee shop sat across your best friend, then it's gonna also sound unnatural on YouTube. So if I'm talking to you in a coffee shop right now and I'm speaking like this, you'd probably feel pretty relaxed and pretty normal, right? This is how somebody would talk to you in a coffee shop. But for some reason, as soon as there's a camera out, people start talking like this. And imagine if, let's say your name's Brian, and I just came into a coffee shop and sat next to you and I said, hey Brian, today I would like to order a latte with salted caramel and a flake on top. You'd, number one, be seriously questioning my choice of coffee. And number two, more importantly, you'd probably want to run away. So that's the rule that we're going to be framing all of the tips in this video around. How do we speak on camera like we're in a coffee shop? Well, the first lever that we're going to pull is volume. This is the biggest difference in that example that I just gave you. How would you speak to somebody in a coffee shop? Well, you talk to them at a normal voice, at a normal speaking tone. So the first thing that you want to do is not speak too loudly or too quietly. If you speak too quietly in a coffee shop, they're not going to hear you, right? And so speaking on a camera is the same thing. If the camera makes you shy and it makes you speak quietly, just think, can the camera actually hear me? Right? Can the person in this coffee shop hear me? If they can't, I need to speak a little bit louder. More often than not, people overcompensate and speak loudly when they're on camera. And they do this, hey guys thing, let's talk about this thing. And it's like, why are you shouting at me? So instead, adjust your volume until it feels like your words are landing on the ears of the camera, not landing in your microphone. Let me illustrate this for you. If I go far back here, and I'm talking to you in a really quiet voice, it probably sounds a bit strange, right? You'll probably be like, this guy is maybe a bit shy. But as soon as I come in, I'm gonna keep the volume the same, but if I'm leaning in like this, and I'm talking to you in this volume, it probably now looks a lot more natural. And that's because the proximity between me and the camera, in real life, this would mean that you could hear what I'm saying. And so you wanna adjust yourself to be like, cool, depending on my distance from the camera, how am I gonna adjust my volume? And by the way, if you want a one-page checklist that you can print out and put on your wall, containing all of these tips and much more about all the things that you should do in the first 10 seconds when you speak on YouTube, you can download that in the description below. The second thing is your pace and rhythm. If you were sat next to somebody, across from somebody in a coffee shop, how fast would you speak? Well, you probably wouldn't speak this slowly. Just think about that scenario. Come into a coffee shop. Hey. Great to meet you. How was work? Oh yeah? Great. I had a great day. The weather was inspiring. You'd probably also be a bit like, okay, this is kind of chill, but kind of fucking weird. Maybe I'm gonna leave. So, pace and rhythm. What kind of rhythm would you talk to somebody in a coffee shop like? You've also got to think about the topic that you're talking about. So you might talk to somebody fairly slowly if you were talking about something kind of boring, but in this scenario, you're making YouTube videos, right? Presumably it's about something that you're passionate about. So if you're in a coffee shop with somebody, you're probably going to be talking about this topic in a fairly passionate way. If you're on YouTube talking about stuff that you feel good about, that you feel passionate about, let's say you're talking about a book that you read about the blockchain or something, and you're like, man, I've read this book and it was really, really cool. And you'd probably be speaking around this pace. You'd probably be speaking pretty fast because you're pretty excited about something. So you also want to start capturing the rhythm that you would talk to a friend in a coffee shop in how you actually speak to your camera. Next, we've got intonation. The camera brings all kinds of funny habits out of us when we start talking to it. And one of those habits when people start talking to camera is they start questioning themselves because they're like, am I an expert in this topic? The camera, the whole internet is watching me. Oh God, I'm start doubting myself. And so the intonation starts doing this a lot of the time. And so you're talking about a point and you're trying to sound like an expert, but you're going up at the end of every sentence, and it kind of sounds like you're questioning yourself. This isn't a good habit to have if you want to be credible on YouTube, if you want to build trust. You'll notice that every sentence that I speak when I'm speaking to camera usually ends on a downwards intonation. So I might question myself going up a little bit, and that's fine, but as long as I end the sentence going down, then it's going to sound like I'm driving the point home. So your intonation also wants to match that coffee shop vibe. The coffee shop rule here is great to rein in this intonation as well, because some people could hear this advice, and they'll be like, great, cool, I'm going to talk with a downwards intonation. And then you think, would I talk like this in a coffee shop? If you're ending every sentence, I would like a latte, please. Yes, great, a latte, please. I would also like to talk about the weather today. I'm super credible and authoritative. Right, if you're talking like that in a coffee shop, also a no-go. The next thing to pay attention to on camera and on YouTube when you're speaking is your body language. A lot of people talk to camera like this. So they do this sort of strange power posture thing that they've probably learned in some public speaking course that doesn't translate well on YouTube at all, by the way. And what they do with this posture is they kind of sit up really straight like this and think that they need to be perfect and polished and be presenting their points in this way. And notice that even if I have my volume and my rhythm and my intonation down right now, but I'm sat like this, like something just doesn't feel right. You probably feel a lot less connected to me because I'm just making my points in this robotic way. My body is stiff. Instead, again, how would you translate to the coffee shop? You got two options. One is you lean over the desk. This is my personal favorite. You lean on a desk and you're chatting to a mate, right? Your YouTube video should start like you're in the middle of a conversation. In the middle of a conversation, just having a great time chatting to your mate. Option number two, just as valid, probably less often used, is something a bit more like this. This is perfectly fine for making YouTube videos as well, right? And you could be talking. It comes off a little bit more aloof, but that can be cool as well. And if you transition between these two postures, it can be really powerful. So you could start a point like this maybe even have a pen in your hand. You could be discussing something over a coffee shop, a cool plan with your friend. Yeah, so I was thinking the other day about this cool thing that we could do, and it was great, you know, and this thing that we did last week, that could be really cool. And in this week, a great idea I had was XYZ, YZZ. Takeaway here is just making sure your body is doing, you guessed it, what you would do in a coffee shop. The final thing is more of a vibe check. It's connection. When we speak to a camera, it's a robot. There's a mechanical nature to it. We sometimes don't feel that human spark. Right? This is where the excuse comes in, which is, Thomas, this is easier said than done, right? When I'm actually in the room with the camera, it's not my friend and I'm not in a coffee shop, I'm in a room, you know, in my office or whatever, and the camera is staring into my soul and I don't feel that connection. The way that you build connection with a camera as if it was a friend in a coffee shop is visualization. Just before you record, you got to put that friend forefront of your mind. Okay, who is my friend that I'm talking to? And really visualize. Like, visualization is an incredibly powerful tool. Professional athletes, top performers do it all the time. Don't sleep on it just because it might sound a bit woo-woo or whatever. By this point, the science is pretty conclusive as to the power of visualization. And so do this before your videos. Just take 2 minutes and really conjure up the image of your best mate or your ideal client in your mind, and conjure up the image that they are sat across from you in a coffee shop. This is something that I do with my clients all the time, right? If we're doing a one-to-one coaching session, I will put all of the stuff I've said in this video into action in just a couple of sentences, which will be, right, take a couple of minutes to imagine yourself vividly across from your client in a coffee shop. Now speak to camera. And once they've done that for a couple of minutes, they transform how they communicate. So now you've helped to nail down how you actually speak on camera, covering that 93% of nonverbal communication, which is awesome. Where you still might be stuck though is that pesky 7% when you actually think, what do I actually say? How do I not ramble in my points? How do I not go down rabbit holes? How do I not bore my audience to death with my content? Well, I've got a 1-page planning method that will force you to speak coherently. And if you want to hear about that, watch this video next.